And thank you for watching this ag forecast for the Western U.S. I'm Andrew Pritchard, Senior Meteorologist with Nutrien Ag Solutions. We'll take a look at the infrared satellite picture across North America on this Friday morning, and it's a good morning to swirl. We've got Hurricane Teddy making its way across the Atlantic right now, slowly creeping off to the north. We've got Tropical Depression number 22 spinning away across the Gulf of Mexico, may intensify to tropical storm status this afternoon and evening, maybe even hurricane status by the time we get to Sunday. And then we've got this big upper-level low that has spun away, meandered back and forth across the Pacific Ocean, getting closer and further away from the Pacific, at times amplifying ridging across the western U.S. Well, this thing's finally getting a nudge from another trough back toward the west, further to the west across the Pacific, and it's finally bringing some moisture into portions of western Washington and Oregon, and even portions of central California picking up some of that moisture here this morning as well. Again, some of the rain activity across western portions of Washington and Oregon over the last 24 to 48 hours, that continuing into the day today. And then we've got a little bit of moisture now making its way into central portions of California and Nevada as we head through the early morning hours today as well. So here's a look at the radar picture again as we get started this morning. If you're watching this video a little bit later in the day on Friday, perhaps you want to take an updated look at the radar. But as of about 7 o'clock Central Time, we've got some scattered showers and storms across western portions of Washington and Oregon. Maybe some showers making their way into far northwestern portions of California here later on this morning. And then just some shower activity making its way through central portions of California into western Nevada early this morning as well. Now, this trough is going to help us out a bit with some of the smoke in the air, with the extreme wildfire flare-up that we saw over the last week, and then that ridge kind of keeping smoke just parked over the area, even blowing some of that over the Pacific Ocean, having it stall there, and then blowing it back over the U.S. as we went through the better part of this week. Well, as I hit play on the smoke forecast, again, you see the spin, you see the upper level low making its way slowly from west to east across the region, taking a lot of the smoke with it. So, again, at times we'll have some smoky air here, but we are going to be trending towards better air quality across the region, starting to clear out some of those skies slowly but surely. So, on the top here, the air quality, the forecast for today, and then on the bottom, we've got the air quality forecast for tomorrow. So certainly not just, a flick of the switch or snapping the fingers and clearing the air out here, but at least we're trending in the right direction with this big upper level low making its way through the area. Now, as we look at the last 72 hours of precipitation, again, much of it falling across far western portions of Washington, and then western and northern, or northern and western portions of Oregon. We've also had some light precipitation making its way through central California into western Nevada. Now, here's the picture of the mid-level jet stream winds. I wanted to say here is the upper-level low that's bringing the moisture to the west right now. Couple features to talk about. We've got our big trough right now making its way across western Canada. That's brought a chill into parts of the Great Lakes and the Corn Belt. We've got this big upper level low that, again, has just kind of meandered back and forth across the Pacific Ocean over the last 7 to 14 days. Finally getting a nudge here from this wave coming across the Pacific. We're going to dig a big trough in the Aleutian Islands, the Gulf of Alaska, as we head into the next week. And that sets us up for the potential for even more precipitation across the Pacific Northwest as we head into the end of next week, maybe towards next weekend. Way out there, but I'll show you we have some good agreement between some of our global models. Now, as I hit play on this, again, you watch the upper level low slowly make its way ashore, finally getting some help from this strong core of winds coming in across the Gulf of Alaska as we head through the weekend. This one finally departs as we get into, I shouldn't say finally, it's welcome rainfall across the region, but it does depart as we get into the weekend. We get a bit of a pause. Not much of a ridge in between there, so we are going to start to pivot the heat a little bit over toward the northern plains. We'll teeter right a few degrees above average here across much of the west as we head into the next week, but not flipping right back to a hot and dry pattern. It's more of a pause while we watch this really strong jet core come around the base of that trough in the Gulf of Alaska, potentially blasting in across the Pacific Northwest as we get to the end of next week. So in the short term, the precipitation forecast from the NAM model will bring it back to this morning. We will watch the rain across Oregon and Washington, across western portions of Oregon and Washington, begin to wane as we head through the end of the day today into tonight. Maybe some light showers lingering through the day on Saturday, but much of the heavier precipitation moves off to the east as we get into tomorrow and Sunday. This low eventually completely clears the west as we get into Sunday. So Sunday we resume mostly sunny dry conditions across much of the west, and then it's towards the end of the coming week that we'll talk about the return of some precipitation. So this is what the NAM has just taken us through the next 36 to 48 hours. This takes us all the way into Monday, but of course the precipitation wraps up by the time we get to Sunday. But a good drink, a good chance for a lot of folks to get about an inch or so here as we consider the rainfall this morning through the end of the day today into tonight across western Oregon, western Washington, and then a smattering here from anywhere from a few tenths to a half of an inch possible across the southern half of Idaho, getting into western Montana. Now here you're looking at the European on the left, the GFS on the right, and I'm taking it all the way through next weekend. You're seeing some very big totals here and good agreement from British Columbia down across western portions of Washington and Oregon. Where here we're talking about the potential for, maybe an additional 1 to 2 inches of rainfall as we get to next weekend. The end of next week into next weekend. And here's what happens. So we get the first upper level low that makes its way through. This is what we've been talking about, again, bringing the rainfall here across this region over the next 24 to 36 hours. You see it making its way out of here by the time we get to Sunday, shutting it down. We'll be dry then Sunday into Monday across the Northeast. Maybe at times bringing some very light precipitation ashore here across western Oregon, western Washington as we head through the early part of the week. But it's really, we're waiting for about Thursday, Friday, when here comes this big low, this big bowling ball of a low pressure system that's going to be sitting in the Gulf of Alaska. We'll get some moisture to wrap around the base of this trough, some stronger jet stream winds, bringing some moisture back into the region as we get into Thursday, Friday, and potentially Saturday. So this is something to watch, perhaps some heavy, prolonged rainfall across the Pacific Northwest as we get to the end of next week. Now, as we bring it back short term, with this system, we will have to talk about a fire weather risk here waning as we head through the weekend. But as we head through the day today, we'll have some downslope flow, especially across portions of western Nevada, and then getting into southern Nevada and western Utah. That's where the fire weather risk is going to be highest today, with some of these strong winds and relatively low relative humidity as we get into the afternoon, right around 5 to 15%. As we head into the day on Saturday, those stronger winds continue to move off to the west. To the east. We will then shift the fire weather risk east with time as well. Again, here's the outlook for today on the left, tomorrow on the right from the Storm Prediction Center. That critical risk across western Nevada, southern Nevada, and then western Utah as we head through the day today. And then tomorrow, just an elevated risk here across parts of southern Nevada, northern Arizona, through the central and northern Rockies. We'll finish with a look at your high temperatures then for the next few days. Again, warmer in the east today as we talk about the western half of the country, warmer in the east, cooler off to the west where we've got rain and cloud cover in the forecast. Again, a little bit cooler as the trough makes its way through it on Saturday, but we start to warm up on the backside Sunday into Monday. And then by Tuesday, we've got a pretty warm air mass sitting across the northern plains. Parts of Montana and Wyoming will be quite a bit warmer than average with those highs right around 80 degrees. Meanwhile, you head back toward the coast, we're talking about 60s and 70s. And again, as we get into next week, we'll be talking about the potential for another round of rain across the Pacific Northwest as we get into the end of next week. I hope you have a great day, a wonderful weekend. We'll talk to you again on Monday morning.